Ever get that feeling like your crypto portfolio is, well, a bit of a minefield?
Haha, I know that feeling.
Today we're diving headfirst into stakes mines,
Mines.
where, let's be honest, luck can feel a lot like strategy. And strategy, well, sometimes it feels like luck.
It's a game of calculated risks, that's for sure.
And we're here to make sure those calculations work in your favor, whether you're the kind of player who likes to build up slowly or someone who wants to go for the big win right off the bat.
Everyone's got their own style.
Exactly. So no matter your risk appetite, this deep dive is all about giving you the insights you need to play smarter.
Sounds good to me.
Now, for anyone who hasn't experienced the thrill of stakes mines yet, it's deceptively simple at first glance. You've got a grid, right?
Right.
And under some of those tiles, mines.
Hidden dangers.
Exactly. Click on a safe tile, you're on your way.
Hmm.
Your potential winnings, they start climbing. But hit a mine.
Game over.
Exactly. But it's not just random clicking, is it?
Not if you want to win consistently.
So where do we even start with the strategy behind this game? It feels like there's a lot to unpack.
Well, like with any good strategy, it starts with understanding the odds.
Okay, so let's talk about those odds. How do they actually work in stakes mines?
The number of mines you choose at the beginning, that's your starting point. Let's say, for example, you're playing a game with just one mine.
Okay, one mine.
Your chance of hitting it on the first click, it's pretty slim. But if you bump that up to, say, 10 mines,
Riskier.
much riskier, suddenly that first click, you've got a 40% chance of hitting a mine right off the bat.
So understanding those odds before you even make that first click, that's crucial.
Absolutely. It's all about weighing the risk versus the potential reward.
You mentioned that the odds change with each tile, though, right? Can you walk us through how that works?
Sure. Let's say you're playing with, let's stick with those 10 mines for now.
10 mines, high risk.
We're going for it. And you survive that first click. Now, the odds of hitting a mine on your second click, they actually decrease.
Because there's one less tile and potentially one less mine.
Exactly. So that potential payout, it gets even larger. Every safe tile you reveal, it shifts the odds a bit more in your favor. But the more mines you choose at the start, the bigger that potential reward becomes with each click.
So it's like this constant balancing act
Exactly.
between playing it safe and going for those higher risk, higher reward clicks. It almost feels like there are different playing styles you could adopt for stakes mines.
Oh, there definitely are. You could approach this game with, we might call it a low-risk, slow-gain mindset. Like, if you imagine building a tower carefully, brick by brick.
Slow and steady wins the race.
Exactly. You'd start with a low mine count, maybe 1 to 3, something like that. You're focused on those smaller, more consistent wins to slowly grow your bankroll.
It's like you said, laying the foundation before you build the skyscraper.
I like that.
But what about those players who, well, they want to build that skyscraper a little faster? What's the strategy for them? So we've got our careful builders laying those foundations, but some people want to see those skyscrapers rise a little faster, right?
Right. Some people like to live life on the edge a bit more.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So what's the strategy for those players who are ready to, take on a little more risk for a bigger potential reward?
That's where this whole medium risk ladder strategy comes in. Imagine climbing a ladder.
Okay, I'm with you.
Each safe click, it's like taking another step up, another rung higher towards a bigger payout.
I like it.
You're balancing that risk and reward, playing with a, moderate number of mines. We're not talking 1 to 3 anymore.
We're ramping things up a bit.
Exactly. Think more like maybe 8 mines.
Okay, 8 mines, so the stakes are higher.
They are. And the goal here is to aim for maybe 4 or 5 tiles before you cash out. You're pushing your luck a bit more, but with the potential for a much sweeter reward.
So you're taking a calculated risk, but those potential rewards are way more than just laying those foundations.
Yeah.
Can you give us an idea of the kind of payout we're talking about with this ladder strategy? What could that look like?
Sure, let's say you're playing with those 8 mines we talked about. You wager, let's say, $10. Now, if you're lucky enough to uncover 4 or even 5 safe tiles,
You're climbing that ladder.
You could be looking at a payout of, I don't know, $30, maybe even $50.
That's not bad at all.
Not bad, right? But, and this is important, this strategy really requires discipline.
Oh, I bet. Because it'd be so easy to think, okay, one more.
Exactly. It's tempting to keep clicking, thinking, just one more tile, but that's how you can lose it all.
It's that classic gambler's dilemma.
It really is. Knowing when to walk away, that's key with any strategy, but especially this one.
You've really got to know your own risk tolerance, right?
Yeah.
Like how much are you willing to risk for that potential reward?
Absolutely. But I have a feeling there are some listeners out there right now thinking, forget the ladder. I'm ready to launch a rocket. Let's go all in.
Uh-huh. Oh, I'm sure there are. They're the high-risk, high-reward players, the ones chasing those massive payouts. So for those listeners, what's the strategy? How do they approach stakes mines?
All right, so we're talking about the high risk, big reward strategy now. This one, this is for the true adrenaline junkies out there. We're talking choosing a high mine count right off the bat.
Like how high are we talking?
Think 15, maybe even 20 mines on that grid.
Wow. Okay, so the grid is practically a minefield at that point.
Pretty much. And with this strategy, you're really only shooting for 1 or 2 safe tiles before you cash out.
So each click is incredibly tense.
It's a total high wire act. One wrong move, and it's game over.
But if you make the right moves,
Then you're looking at a massive payout. We're talking serious crypto gains.
can you give us an example? Paint us a picture of what a successful, high-risk, big-reward play might actually look like.
Okay, let's stick with that $10 wager just to keep things consistent. But this time, you're playing with 20 mines. Now imagine this. You manage to reveal just one safe tile. Just one.
It all comes down to that one click.
Exactly. And with 20 mines on the board, you could be looking at a payout of, oh, I don't know, $100, maybe even more, depending on the exact odds.
Wow.
That's the allure of this strategy, right? That chance of turning a small wager into a significant win. But, and I can't stress this enough, it's not for the faint of heart.
It takes guts, and I imagine a pretty hefty bankroll to handle those swings.
Oh, absolutely. You've got to be able to handle the heat because, let's face it, with this strategy, more often than not, you're going to hit a mine. It's just the nature of the game.
Which is why bankroll management is so crucial no matter what strategy you're using.
Right. Couldn't agree more. It's not just about those individual clicks. It's about how you're managing your crypto over the long haul.
So don't go betting the entire farm on one risky click.
Exactly. A good rule of thumb, and this applies to any form of gambling really, is to only wager a small percentage of your bankroll on each game. We're talking like 1 to 2% max.
Okay, so keep those wagers small and manageable.
Exactly. That way, even if you hit a few mines along the way, you're not wiping out your entire bankroll.
You're playing smart, playing the long game.
Precisely. Now, before we get too carried away with all these different strategies, there's one really important thing to remember about stakes mines, something that trips a lot of players up.
Okay, lay it on me.
There's no magic formula here. There's no way to predict exactly where those mines are hidden.
So no matter how long we stare at that
You
screen,
got it.
all those patterns we think we're seeing.
All in your head, I'm afraid.
So there's no point trying to outsmart the system then.
Afraid not. Each tile, it's like a coin flip. Completely random.
50-50 chance.
Exactly. Independent of whatever happened on the previous click, independent of any pattern you might think you see, it's all chance.
So what you're saying is, it's a game of chance.
At its core.
Absolutely.
But within that, we can make strategic decisions
Exactly.
about how we manage that risk, how much we're willing to, push our luck.
You're not just along for the ride.
Right.
You're choosing how much you want to risk on each click.
Yeah.
Which is why I think it's so interesting that there's no, one right way to play this game.
Right. Because we've got those distinct strategies you've been walking us through, the low risk, the medium risk, the high risk.
Right.
But then some players, they prefer something a bit more, adaptable.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
You're talking about the hybrid approach?
Yeah, is that what it's called? The hybrid?
It's one way to think about it
Okay.
because it's really about being flexible, adjusting your approach based on, well, how's it going? How's your bankroll looking at this moment in time?
So it's not like you're picking one of these strategies and sticking with it no matter what.
Right.
You're kind of like custom tailoring it. Exactly. You might start with that low risk, slow gain approach just to, like we said, build that foundation.
Right.
Get comfortable.
So get a feel for the game.
Exactly.
And then as your bankroll grows, maybe you start incorporating elements of that medium risk strategy.
Right. Start climbing that ladder.
Yeah, exactly. Climbing that ladder. Or maybe even sprinkling in, if you're feeling really lucky,
If you're feeling bold.
a few of those high risk plays just
see what happens.
let's see what happens.
Why not?
So you're basically leveling up your strategy as you go.
I like that. Leveling up.
As you become more comfortable with the risk, and as your bankroll allows, which I guess goes back to what you were saying about, responsible gaming, managing your bankroll.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all connected.
You're not just throwing it all in at the highest risk right from the start.
Not unless you have a very specific risk tolerance.
Right, exactly. This has been a really interesting deep dive. I feel like we've really covered a lot of ground here.
We've gone deep.
We have gone deep. The odds, the different strategies, the psychology of it all, even, touched on responsible gaming, which is, I think, a really important part of this conversation. But before we wrap things up here, any final thoughts for our listeners, for those who are, ready to dive into the world of stakes mines? What's one thing you would leave them with?
As you're thinking about your own approach to the game, and we talked about this earlier, but it's worth repeating, each tile, completely random.
Completely random.
There's no way to predict.
No crystal ball.
No crystal ball, no matter how much you might want one. So think about that for a second. Does that knowledge, that inherent randomness, does that make you more likely to rely on a specific strategy?
Interesting.
Or do you kind of embrace that chaos and say, okay, I'm going to trust my gut on this one?
Let intuition be my guide.
Exactly. And there's no right or wrong answer there. It really depends on your personality, your risk tolerance, all of that.
It's that push and pull, isn't it?
It really,
Between trusting those numbers and trusting, I don't know, that gut feeling.
it makes it exciting though, right?
Absolutely. And that is Stakes Mines in a nutshell. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
It's been a pleasure.
We'll see you next time, ready to explore another corner of this, this exciting world, that's for sure.
Until then.